my friends, if you know me, and chances are you do not, you know that the Warlord, a class from 4th edition D&D, is near and dear to my heart. It is my favorite class in any version of D&D ever, and basically it's half the characters that I play, maybe more. When I play 4th edition, like, coin flip, am I playing a Warlord or am I playing anything else? So I wanted to go over the Warlord a bit, kind of a review of the class, but also because this is part of my how to play 4th edition review, we're going to be talking about how like powers are structured, the kinds of things we expect to see at each given tier. I might get into the Paragon paths a little bit, but we're just going to be talking about the Warlord because it's something that I love a lot. And today we are sipping on strawberry kiwi juice because it is oh so delicious. So, the Warlord, let me just pull the book up here. Oh, and for a note, we're not going to be getting into any expansion material. I'm going to be going just off of what's in the player's handbook because if I get into all of the content of the game, that's quite a lot. Like, I'm not going to be talking about anything from martial power. I'm not going to be talking about anything from any other supplements, just the player's handbook. So, you're a leader. You're a martial character. Leader is your role. Martial is your power source. Every class has one of each of those. What's interesting is that a lot of classes have what you would call a secondary role. A role that isn't really your primary thing, but you can kind of do it. Usually not as good as someone who is primarily that role. The player's handbook doesn't really call that out. Later books do. I believe the Player's Handbook 2 and 3 tend to say when there is a clear secondary role that you fulfill, or if there might be more than one that you could fulfill, depending on choices. The Player's Handbook 1 doesn't really do that. It wasn't something that they had kind of officially acknowledged when it was written. And I don't think the Warlord... so the Warlord kind of steps a foot into Defender. It's wouldn't even call it a secondary role, because it's not very good at doing that. It is a leader through and through. The Warlord is what I would call a medium durability character. You don't have as good armor proficiency as the fighter. You don't have as many hit points as the fighter. You don't have the healing surges of the fighter. You're just like one tier lower in each of those categories. You're a medium durability character. But you do have proficiency with shields, which is nice. Light shields only, interestingly. Yes, in 4th edition, there are light shields and heavy shields. Light shields give +1, heavy shields give +2. So those are your base statistics. So you're like a what you would call a light fighter, basically. Like, you're wearing heavy armor, probably, but like not as heavy as the fighter. You've got kind of a lot of hit points. Like, it's a reasonable number of hit points, more than, say, like, the light skirmishers, like the rogue or the wizard. Way more than the wizard, but not as many as the fighter. You're in that middle ground, sort of on all tiers. The Warlord gets a few class features. The first one, and the simplest, is called Combat Leader. You and each ally within 10 squares who can see and hear you gain +2 to their initiative. Easy. Initiative bonuses are good, and if you don't understand why, it's kind of a basic optimization tactic. Whoever goes first in a turn-based game has an advantage unless the game is structured in a very specific way to counteract that advantage. And D&D never has been. Just, it hasn't. So going first is a big deal because you're generally going to get about an extra turn over the enemy. You also get, I'm going to skip Commanding Presence for a moment. I'm going to come right back to it. First, you get Inspiring Word. Inspiring Word is a power. Let me just show it to the screen here. There it is. So when I'm recording these, I'm mirrored on the screen so I can see what's going on. It does throw off my my sense of direction a little bit. So, inspiring word. You can see the red bar means that it can be used once per encounter. That's also what the encounter means there. But it does say special because you can use it twice per encounter. It is a minor action to use. It has a range of 5. Notice it is a close burst 5. Close means that it does not provoke opportunity attacks. If it was a ranged power, it would provoke when you use it. This does not, so it is a close power, but it's close burst 5. So it can target any creature within 5 of you. That's something that 4th edition actually does kind of a lot, is that ranged abilities that are not specifically for people right around you, but aren't supposed to provoke an opportunity attack, usually support powers and the like. Those kinds of things are going to be close. So a close burst 5 is everything within 5 squares of yourself. And it can, depending on the power, like the target could say, all creatures in the burst or all enemies in the burst. But a lot of them, particularly support abilities, will say 1 creature in the burst. You or 1 ally in the burst is actually what this says. Now, the range does scale up at higher levels. It goes to 10 at 11th level and 15 at 21st level, so range scales with your level. And the target can spend a healing surge and regain an additional d6 hit points. It is the simplest, this and healing word, which is actually structurally identical. I'll get into that in just a moment. They are the simplest of the word powers. Every leader class has a word power. It can be used it can be used twice per encounter to start with, and then I believe it can be used, at 16th level, so halfway through the level progression, it can be used 3 times per encounter. And then the amount of additional healing goes up with level. It's not that really that important. Basically, every 5 levels you get an extra d6. What it mostly boils down to. So this is very simple in terms of healing powers. And it is actually, even though it is written, like if you take inspiring word and you change the word inspiring to healing word, so that it says healing word, it is exactly identical to the cleric power. But because features interact, when the cleric actually uses healing word, it is going to be different because the cleric has class features that affect how they heal. So the cleric the cleric's version is a little bit more powerful than inspiring word, simply because the cleric is better at healing just by default. I forget what actually their benefit is. I know that this is true, but I don't remember why it's true, which is really interesting. I'm going to take a little peek. We're going to detour here for a second and remember together why, because you don't remember either. I have decided. What is it? Healer's lore. When you grant healing with one of your cleric powers that has the healing keyword, add your wisdom modifier to the hit points healed. All right. Yeah, so the cleric's going to add their wisdom modifier, and the warlord does not. The warlord has other abilities that heal. So there's I'm not saying that the cleric is a better healer, but the cleric heals a little bit more directly. Because here we go. You have a commanding presence. This commanding presence is the feature that a 5th edition player would call a subclass. It was not called subclasses for 4th edition. Subclasses are a different thing. They are variant versions of a existing class, usually with a fully different progression structure. We call these specializations or specs. You could also call them types. There's a few, I don't think that there was really unified terminology for what these are. A lot of classes, not every class in 4th edition has them, but most of them do. Notably, I think divine classes tend not to. But, what are you going to do? Anyways, the commanding presence. In the player's handbook, you can be inspiring presence or tactical presence. And obviously, there's going to be additional options when in like Martial Power and Martial Power 2, where they're expanding on the options for martial classes. You're going to get more different types of these subclass abilities. I guess I'll just refer to them as subclasses for familiarity purposes. The Inspiring Presence, and both of these, by the way, go off. Sorry, no, they don't. They're not triggered by the same thing. So an Inspiring Presence is when an ally who can see you spends an action point to take an extra action. That ally also regains lost hit points equal to 1/2 your level plus your charisma modifier. So there you have some healing that is detached from spending healing surges, and with some coordination with your party, you can put out more healing in a turn than the cleric can. Though interestingly, the cleric is going to get twice their wisdom modifier because they can use healing word twice. You're going to get your 1/2 your level plus your charisma modifier per ally who spends a So there's a real trade-off. Like, it's not immediately obvious which one is better. I think the Warlord probably puts out more healing per encounter on average. That's my intuition, but it's not by much, and it's a little bit more spread out. I'd say the cleric is better at focus healing, whereas the Warlord is better at healing everyone in the party. And then, or you have Tactical Presence, is when an ally who you can see spends an action point. Oh, they are triggered by the same thing. I don't know why I was saying that they weren't. When an ally who can see you spends an action point to make an extra attack, the ally gains a bonus to the attack roll equal to 1/2 your intelligence modifier. And then it makes a little note down here that the choice you make also provides bonuses to certain Warlord powers. I'm going to get to that in a moment. So both of these abilities trigger when an ally spends an action point. So that is your allies having agency on when your abilities work. You are literally enhancing your allies as they do their thing. Because these do not take actions from you. You don't choose when to use these. These happen when allies do things. Which is kind of the theme of the Warlord. If the Warlord were to have a specific, like a single mechanical theme, it is let your party do what they're doing, but better. So those are your starting features. +2 to initiative, Inspiring Word, and then your specialization, your command presence. Personally, I like Inspiring Presence. I like because notice that Inspiring Presence is based on charisma, Tactical Presence is based on intelligence. So your choice of subclass, I should probably stop wiggling my fingers every time I say subclass. Your choice of subclass tells you what your secondary stat is, because your primary stat is strength. You're going to be attacking with strength, and you want your attacks to hit, so you want to max out your strength. Your subclass determines what your secondary ability is, and this is true for, oh man, I wish I could say every class. All right, so there's 2 basic kinds of classes. I think I did go over this in character creation video. I'm going to go over it again here. So you have 2 different structures of classes with regards to your ability scores. You have your A classes, where you have 1 primary ability and 2 secondary abilities. Oftentimes there's more because of expansions. Where your primary ability is always the same, and then your subclass choice determines what your secondary ability is. Or you have V classes, where you have 2 different primaries. Regardless of your subclass, you're going to have the same secondary. I am sorry to say the Warlock is the latter. Ranger is the latter. They stopped doing that at a certain point. I believe from Player's Handbook 2 onward, there are no V-type classes. They're all A's, because they realized that's very limiting, because half your powers use one stat, half your powers use the other stat. You're kind of locked out of the one you didn't choose. Like, continuing to progress 2 different primary stats means you're also not progressing your secondary at all, and it's just not worth it. Like, keep it's too much investment to invest in, like, all of those to 2 different primary stats. It's not worth it. So they stopped doing it. It's unfortunate that some of the classes are built that way. Warlord is not. Ha ha ha! So for today's discussion, doesn't matter at all. So Most classes have 4 at-will abilities printed in the first book that introduces the class. Obviously, expansions will add more. You have things like Commander's Strike, where you tell an ally to make an attack, and then they get all of their you tell them to make a basic attack, and they get all of their normal bonuses to everything, and then they also add your intelligence modifier onto that. So literally, your damage output is the basic damage output of your highest damage ally plus your intelligence modifier. You literally could be the highest damage character in the party if you have someone in the party who is specialized for doing basic attacks, which is granted not everyone. If you have someone who's specialized for doing basic attacks and you are having them do their specialization plus your intelligence mod, that means you're the highest damage character in the party. In a sort of roundabout way. you gotta take care of that character, that ally. But you have things like Viper's Strike, where you hit someone, and then if the target shifts before the start of your next turn, it provokes an opportunity attack from an ally of your choice. So you can actually get your attack plus an ally's attack if that target shifts at all. And it shifts for any reason. Normally, shifting does not provoke an opportunity attack. This means that you can have them have an ally take an opportunity attack anyways. That's super cool. It's hella lockdown, especially if you have a fighter in the party. Oh my gosh. So fighters get bonuses to their attack roll on opportunity attacks, and if they hit with an opportunity attack, they actually stop the creature's movement. So Viper Strike with a fighter is hella powerful, because then that enemy probably just can't move, because the fighter is almost certainly going to hit, and they're going to stop their movement. They can't move regularly because they'll provoke. They can't shift because they'll provoke. It's so good. So you start to see, like, as you're building characters and you're building a party together, you're gonna find all these synergies and these like combos that to play off of other characters, and that's what I love about 4th edition is you aren't looking at just what I can do. You're looking at what everyone can do and how can I enhance the party, or at least that's how I approach it. That's why I love playing the Warlord. You have something like Wolfpack Tactics. Before you attack, you let one ally adjacent to either you or the target shift 1 square as a free action. And then you just attack for basically basic attack damage. 1 weapon plus strength. So flanking is a standard rule in 4th edition. It's not an optional rule like it is in 5th. So if you have an ally next to an enemy, let me grab something here. I can't. You know what I'm talking about. You have like an enemy in the middle, and then like an ally over here, and then you're coming in here, and you want to get boom. All right, now I want to attack this guy. You do Wolfpack Tactics and have your ally shift diagonally to the other side. Now you're flanking. You get a +2 to hit, and they'll get a +2 to hit without having to spend a move action to shift. It's so good. It's so good. And then you have encounter powers that get even stronger. Warlord's Favor is incredibly strong. In fact, I think it was nerfed. One ally gives a +2 bonus to. Oh yeah. Warlord's Favor got nerfed. Yeah. It's crazy strong. Lead the attack, I'm pretty sure, also got nerfed. Both of those grant bonuses to allies' attacks. Girls into the target. Yeah. So the Warlord is a class that is 100% about supporting your allies, making the other people at the table feel powerful, making them feel effective, and pushing them to heights that they probably could reach on their own, but you're just going to make sure that they get there. You have a few Paragon paths. Did I talk about this? I don't remember if I talked about this in a previous video. So Paragon paths are something that unlock at level 11. 11 to 20 is the Paragon tier. So at level 11, you're going to pick a Paragon path. Most Paragon paths are based on your your class. They require a specific class. Some are based on your race. There's a few that are based on power source. So like some that just say like any martial class, that kind of thing. I believe every class in the player's handbook has 3 Paragon paths for it. This one has Combat Veteran, Knight Commander, and Sword Marshal. And they all do different things. If I recall correctly, I believe the Warlord has some pretty freaking good Paragon paths. The Warlord was not really the favorite child of 4th edition. That clearly is the Fighter. The Fighter's got so much support. But somebody at Wizards of the Coast clearly liked Warlords. Warlords got a lot of good love in regards to the design and getting a lot of good content. So, proficiency with heavy armor, yeah. Yeah, so like the Knight Commander kind of leans into more of the tankiness aspect, because like as a Warlord you are, like I said, medium durability. Knight Commander actually pushes that a little bit higher. You and allies within 3 squares of you gain a bonus to damage rolls when making opportunity attacks equal to your charisma modifier. Yeah, so the Knight Commander wants to like get up into melee with allies and make opportunity attacks, which means you're defending area, you're controlling ground, which is so you're kind of like pulling a little bit more towards that defender secondary role. To a point. Like obviously you're never really going to fill in as a defender if your party lacks one. It's not really what the Warlord is designed to do. They have like a handful of abilities at most that allow them to mark enemies, but it's not really something that they're going to be doing regularly. So I don't have a lot else to say. Like that's just level 1 stuff, your at wills and your class features. In expansions, I remember there's the Bravura Warlord, which likes to take risks. They like to go do risky things and get benefits from doing things that I would consider not that wise. I'm gonna go just put this right here. You also have the Insightful Warlord, which uses wisdom as a secondary stat, which I think is really cool. I did that once. My continuing pattern of trying to play ranger type characters without actually using the ranger class. I did it as a warlord and it was really good. That actually also introduced ranged attacks, a ranged spec for the warlord. So you can, if you want to, build a warlord that mixes ranged and melee attacks together, because the ranged attacks for the warlord use strength as the attack roll, which is just it seems unintuitive, but it is clearly the way to make a character that hybrids ranged and melee. So, the Warlord, like, if I was going to do every class, I probably would have started alphabetically, and Warlord's quite near the end. I think only the Wizard is actually after the Warlord, but the Warlord is my favorite class for the simple reason that it embodies what I play D&D for. I want to sit down at a table with a bunch of my friends, and we're going to beat monsters, we're going to overcome challenges, and I want to help them do that. I feel good when other people feel good. So, that's why I play the Warlord. And if you're like me at all, consider also playing the Warlord. It is a little bit awkward to talk about the Warlord first, because to really appreciate all the things that it does, you kind of have to know what everyone else does. And it certainly doesn't fit in every team comp. Like, there are certainly parties you can build that don't really benefit from a Warlord that much. So in terms of just like party building and optimization, it's not a default always on kind of thing. But in my experience, if you're the first person to make a character and you say, all right, I'm going to play a Warlord, that tends to push other people. So, oh, you're going to play a Warlord? Well, I'm going to play a fighter, which I probably should be saying anyways. The fighter is so good. But they might be saying things like, oh, I'm going to play a barbarian. I'm going to play a A ranger, yeah. I want to play a ranger because we have a warlord in the party, so I know that he's gonna like it's a force multiplier, right? I'm very very dangerous as a ranger. Now I have a warlord to make me twice as dangerous. Uh, it's and that is the effect that the warlord has on the table. So like that's really profound design that you don't see in fifth edition. In fifth edition, you tend to be like, oh, I'm gonna play I'm gonna play a monk. Okay, that has no bearing on the rest of the party. No one really like, not to put it rudely, but no one cares. Your decisions as a monk, for example, don't really have any bearing on anyone else. It's sort of just saying, all right, I'm going to play a monk. You probably shouldn't play a monk because that would be too many monks. You know, if that's the kind of party building you subscribe to. The But fourth edition classes really do play off of each other in a really profound ways, especially, and the warlord is like just a peak example of that, and that's one of the reasons why I love it so much.